lipstick on. Let's get this on and let's start recording here. So I'm late tonight getting this started. It's 8:14 p.m. This is Wednesday, July 1st, 2020. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the GoldFish Report. I'm your host, Louisa. This is GoldFish Report number 514. It's our week 177 midweek POTUS report. So we're going to report on basically everything the president's been doing up until this point in the week. And have a little bit of discussion. I hope everybody, I know I'm late. I did not announce this. So if I do a midweek report, it will be on a Wednesday. Hi, Shari. How are you, dear? If I do one, it'll be on a Wednesday evening. And then, of course, I do them on Saturday nights as well, as long as I can. Right, folks? So let me just say hello in the chat. So, yeah. I wanted to make some announcements. I just wanted to remind everybody that our political theater reports are not going to be streamed live on Monday mornings any longer, but they will be uploaded on BitChute. There will be a link, like a placeholder icon in uploaded in YouTube, and all you need to do is click on the link below in the description box and it'll go right to BitChute for you. We have to do it this way until after the election. Today I just had another screen share. This is the fun I get to wake up to every day. I'm going to screen share this. Again, another one of these, love letters from YouTube. Okay, they deleted here. We have community guidelines describe which content we allow and don't allow on YouTube. Your video, the GoldFish Report number 324, Posner versus Fetzer defamation suit, was flagged to us for review. Gee, I wonder who would have done that. Upon review, we've determined that it violates our guidelines and we removed it from YouTube. I can't even imagine what guidelines it violated, because as you can see, it does not tell you, right? It doesn't tell you. It just gives you this vague and general description, and you have no idea what part of the content is in question. You're not given an opportunity to edit that and resolve it. You don't even know what it is. So this is very typical, very, typical kind of, I would say, Gestapo type, fascism that we're dealing with. So hi, everybody. Thanks for joining me tonight. So that was the first announcement. The next announcement is we have another Food for the Soul series edition tomorrow with Dr. Scott Werner at 10:30 a.m. So we'll live stream that as well. This is really one of my favorite series of reports because in the end of the day, at the end of the day, it's kind of like what makes your soul happy and at peace. And that's really what, to me personally, what matters the most. It does matter that we get the truth out. So the political reports are important, but more importantly, it's how are we doing, each and every one of us. And I had a lovely friend I spoke to, who's in the chat right now, I spoke to last night, who reminded me of that as well. So I'm so grateful to everybody. I truly am. The next announcement is that Friday, we're going to have another Dragon update on the financial system, because there's a lot of rumors going around, and there's also a big story out of Zimbabwe right now regarding the Zimbabwe currency, which has just gone gold backed with the new financial system. So it's a blockchain technology, and we have talked about this a little bit on the GoldFish Report, but until things came to fruition, there really wasn't much to talk about on a weekly basis. But this does entail a new financial system. It does entail using this blockchain technology, and so Zimbabwe has apparently some of the greatest reserves of gold on the planet. Something like 13 million tons of Zimbabwe reserves, and only 580 tons have been exploited. So this is going to be quite interesting. It's called the Apollo Group, United Allied States. This is a group of African allied nations who are forming this. Uh, I guess so an alliance here. It's called Apollo FinTech, which is a new financial system. So we have been waiting for this, folks. It's a really great, announcement to start at the top of the report, even though it's not related to the POTUS. It will be soon because, of course, we know we've talked about for years. I mean, really from the beginning of GoldFish Report, we've talked about a global currency reset and the inevitability of that. And we've talked about this with Winston Shrout, who has been, who we did the whole Country Road series of reports with. Um, a lot of that had to do with legalese, but a lot of it had to do with financial as well. And of course, almost all of the Dragon reports had to do with the geopolitics and, of course, the financial system. So we will have that on Friday. Now, it will only be available to our, I believe, to our Patreons all day Friday, and Saturday morning it will be posted to the public. So if you want to get in ahead of the crowd, become a Patreon, and you can get our exclusive interviews 24 hours in advance, if not 48 hours. Usually it's 2 days, but when time is of the essence, when it's a timely issue regarding, finances and things like that, then it's usually then a 24-hour advance viewing. So those will be available on Vimeo, and the Patreons will receive that link exclusively, and they can view that in advance of the public. So that's definitely one of the advantages of being a Patreon, is getting the advance, viewing of these reports, of certain exclusive reports. So I think I made all the announcements. That's great news regarding the Zimbabwe currency, announcing that it's gold backed. Of course, we knew that the renminbi was also gold backed as well, the yuan. So the Chinese currency had announced that it was gold backed a long time ago. We will eventually be gold backed, and I think this is what, part of what you're seeing with the deep state is you're seeing this, you're seeing this, it's really kind of a futile war, or battle that's going on right now, because they're not going to be able to stop what's coming. And it's coming, folks. We have one more week of getting this straightened out, and then I think we're going to start seeing some fireworks, literally, not just this weekend. So I hope everybody has a very safe 4th of July, and let's get right to reporting on the president and what he's been doing all week. This was the picture photos of the week from last week. I think I may have screen shared them. I'm not sure. It was a rainy week down in DC. President's such a hardworking man. I mean, he truly is. They're always out there and nonstop. I mean, keeping up a schedule most people probably wouldn't be able to keep up with, I mean, it's just amazing. Sadly, we're seeing more of the, this coronavirus lockdown and restrictions, at least in the liberal states. But the good news is we have seen the police move into the CHOP zone area of Seattle, so that's really great. But it's hit or miss depending on where you are in the country. The president signing the proclamation of suspension of the entry of immigrants and non-immigrants who present a risk to the United States labor market. This has to do with the H-1 visa. So, and of course, here's the president at a gaggle. This is called a press gaggle. You have to be in the know, in the press, in the media to know that. Of course, the president leaving, and U.S. Border Patrol. He was at a meeting regarding the Border Patrol, and of course, talking about the wall, which we did talk about a little bit last week. So I'm not going to, won't repeat that. Let me move past that. There's a lot of beautiful pictures, of course, with the First Lady signing the resolution for. Well, let me just screen share that one for you so you could see what that was. This is the First Lady signing the resolution on it's an executive order, rather, on strengthening the child welfare system for America's children, after being signed by the president. This is huge, folks. This is huge, and this is an issue that's very close to my heart. As you know, that the family, this isn't specific. I don't know the specific details as in terms of how it's going to impact the family court racket, because it's an illegal racket. Let's face it, it's absolutely illegal. It's unlawful what they're doing. It's entirely destroying the family and the children as well. And I'm glad to see that the president is doing something regarding this child welfare system. I was shocked to know how many children were in it. It was like 400,000 children. And I was, quite shocked to read that, actually. Quite disappointed that it would be that high. But people, there's a lot of unwanted pregnancies, and there's a lot of people who can't cope with having that, and having those changes in life. And it's unfortunate that it's our drive to procreate. But for some people, it's you know it's it's economically impossible to do it, right? I think Michael Jackson had this one song. What were the lyrics in it? Something like don't have kids if you don't have the money for it. I don't know. Well, those weren't the lyrics, but it was something like that. If anybody remembers it, type it in the live chat. So let's move along. Let's continue. We have the president here. This was an amendment to a proclamation. Okay, this was regarding immigration again. So he's just amending this other executive order or proclamation that he had passed previously. So that's just an amendment to that one. We have a proclamation to take certain actions under the United States Mexico-Canada Agreement, Implementation Act, and for other purposes. So this is regarding the USMCA. This is a protocol replacing the North America Free Trade Agreement, the failed NAFTA, with an agreement between the United States of America, the United Mexico States. I didn't know they referred to it that way, but I guess why not? And Canada. The United States. So the United States, Mexico, and Canada amended the USMCA through the protocol of amendment to the agreement between the United States of America, Canada, and Mexico. The Congress approved the protocol, blah, blah, blah. Okay, you could read that. These are the amendments to that. And you can come to the blog, the goldfishreport.blogspot.com. It has to do with textile agreements. It has to do with, let's see, what else here? Goods, trade, mostly trade. So it has to do with that as well. And what else, if there's anything that really kind of jumps out? It authorizes the president to proclaim modifications into continuation of the duties and things under duty-free and excise treatment. It's just policy talk. So it's very long. So come and take a look on the blog. Here I'm scrolling again. I always said I wouldn't scroll, but here we are. Let's just take a look at the headline. So President Trump will protect American history. For more than a month, there has been a sustained assault on American civilians, law enforcement officers, public and private property, and national treasures, such as the Lincoln Memorial. These attacks aren't the actions of peaceful protesters. They are the violent criminal acts of rioters, arsonists, anarchists, and left-wing extremists. On Friday, President Trump signed an executive order to protect America's monuments, memorials, and statues from those who seek to erase our history. Yes, he did. They're tearing down statues, desecrating monuments, and purging dissenters. The president said, it's not the behavior of a peaceful political movement. It's the behavior of totalitarians and tyrants and people that don't love our country. Yeah, it's very true. So they're saying here, under the new order, any person who causes willful damage to federal property will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. President Trump will not tolerate violence and intimidation from a mob to impose its fringe ideology on law-abiding citizens. President Trump's latest action also allows federal support to be withheld from state and local law enforcement agencies who fail to protect such monuments and memorials. It is the sacred first duty of America's leaders, federal, state, and local, to ensure domestic tranquility and defend the life, property, and rights of our citizens. In a letter to Illinois Governor Pritzker and Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot. On Friday, President Trump offered a partnership to end the violence in Chicago and bring about real change. And as you know, folks, it's been horrendous what's been happening in Chicago, not just this past weekend or the past few weeks, but more so the past few years. It's unreal. And I don't know how on earth this woman became the mayor of Chicago. I just don't understand. If you are willing to put partisanship aside, the president wrote, we can revitalize distressed neighborhoods in Chicago together. But to succeed, you must establish law and order. Across our country, provocateurs who are ignorant of American history are attempting to rewrite it. Some politicians hope to appease this mob by negotiating with the extremists who are destroying their communities and even claiming entire city blocks, which, you know, in the chop zone, we've seen that. President Trump is standing up to these anarchists. Peaceful protesters deserve to be heard, but violent rioters deserve to be arrested. Real leaders can tell the difference. So here's a little clip here regarding from our press secretary, Kayleigh McEnany. I just love her. She's just doing such an amazing job. I'm just so proud of her. Let me check in with everybody real quick. Where'd you go? There you are. Hi, everybody. How are you there? Domestic terrorists, exactly. Let me just screen share this so everybody can see what the president's been doing. Here we go. Kayleigh's wonderful. She's so perfect for this role. So perfect for it. Okay.
Hello, everyone. Law and order are the building blocks to the American dream. But if anarchy prevails, this dream comes crumbling down. Anarchy in our streets is unacceptable, and anger is not enough. You have a president committed to action. The DOJ has arrested over 100 anarchists for rioting and destruction of federal property. The DOJ has also charged 4 men in federal court for attempting to tear down the statue of Andrew Jackson in Lafayette Square. The FBI has over 200 open domestic terrorism investigations ongoing. AG Barr has created a task force on violent anti-government extremists led by the U.S. Attorney's Office in New Jersey and the U.S. Attorney's Office in northern Texas. With 200 Trump-appointed judges confirmed, the rule of law will be upheld. Hello.
Yeah, 200 judges confirmed. Well, you know, that's a great accomplishment for the president. It's really huge, actually. So let's keep going. What do we have here? I'm sorry, I'm screen sharing the blog. Okay. We also have our moral obligation is to the American workers. Let me just check my sound. Oh, no, my sound wasn't on properly. Sorry, guys. Okay, President Trump signed 2 executive orders on Friday at the 6th meeting of American Workforce Policy Advisory Board, a committee co-chaired by Ivanka Trump and Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross. The first order directs federal agencies to replace one-size-fits-all degree-based hiring with skill-based hiring. Unnecessary degree requirements exclude otherwise qualified Americans from federal employment, impose the expense of college on prospective workers, and disproportionately harm low-income Americans. That's a good move. I think it's a very good move. I mean, we can see clearly a lot of those people who were doing these anarchy probably went to college. Sadly, they probably did. It didn't teach them anything, but unfortunately, especially not any history, that's for sure. The second order continues President Trump's National Council for the American Worker through at least next September. The president's pledge to American workers has been signed by more than 400 companies and organizations. Together, these employers have pledged career training and development opportunities for over 16 million American workers and counting. Here we have putting skills before degrees in federal hiring. And here's the photo of the president signing the executive order on promoting American monuments, on protecting American monuments, memorials, and statues, and combating recent criminal violence. President's very serious about this, folks. Everybody saw that he went to Lafayette Park across the street and, toured the graffiti and the destruction and the violence himself. And, I think he was really quite uh, disgusted, quite honestly. But again, it's federal property, and what were these people thinking? You knew you're going to get arrested. And to that point, as I screen shared this, I did screen share this. Where are we? Probably screen shared it last week. The president is not, he's very, very open about making sure we find these people uh, who have been causing all of this anarchy, and holding them accountable. And on the president's Twitter page, he had posted, and I'm going to screen share that for you. He posted this, just one after the next of uh, photos of people who were. You can pretty much see who he is very clearly. You could see his jacket, his watch, you could see tattoos, you could see a lot of things, folks. I mean, here's that tattoo on his arm. Anybody recognize it? If you do, call that number below. Honestly, I mean, what were these people thinking? That they weren't going to get caught for vandalizing and destruction of federal property? Honestly, really? What did these people who recruited them to do this anarchy tell them? Yeah, that they weren't going to get arrested? That's silly. So here you have this guy, even with a mask, we can still identify these people, right? Some of the people. Here he is pouring what, gasoline or pouring some kind of liquid onto this statue here or property. And then, it's amazing. And when you catch someone in the act like that, it's quite interesting. Here's this guy, he's got this tattoo here. That's a pretty interesting tattoo. And I know those tattoo parlors keep really good records of who gets what tattoo, because everybody has to sign consent agreements in those places if they're done legally anyway. And here's the guy, he takes his mask off so you can see everything about him. See his face, he takes his shirt off, see his tattoos. I mean, you have to be kidding me. These people don't think that they're not being identified. And here's this guy. We got, redhead over here, and full beard. These aren't people. You don't exactly hide that kind of hair and that look. So president's very serious about this stuff, folks. Very serious. Look, one page after the next. And when your mugshot's on the president's Twitter and for the world to see, in this way, that's definitely not something to be proud of, folks. Not at all. Look, this guy, in the middle of all the, commotion and everything, of course, everybody's, these people's face masks come off and they don't even realize it. They don't apparently even care. And I'm telling you, I can't wait to find out more about these people, who these people are exactly. I mean, look at this, right? To the police. A lot of these people are very, very easily identifiable. So this is what's going on, and I'm really glad to see the president. He had to let this play out. I know everybody's saying this on their channels, but it's because Q is saying it. And look, everybody can read the Q boards, so it's kind of like there's a lot of channels that just repost what Q says, and quite honestly, anybody can go read it. I kind of give a perspective. Remember, I used to put my Q glasses on, right? Because I was making the point that we have to look at the world events through the eyes of Q so that we could understand them better and we wouldn't be so, worried and concerned about it. And I have to do it myself sometimes. Sometimes, I get burnt out from what I'm doing. So it is good to, to try and keep that into perspective. Let's keep going. The president has, and one of the reasons I wanted to go live tonight was for Saturday night. I didn't want to take up a lot of time on Saturday night. And usually we have like an hour long POTUS report. Sometimes it's like an hour and 40 minutes or an hour and a half. And I really am trying to get it cut down. So the best thing to do is to do the midweeks when I can. And that'll cut down, the length of time. As you know, it's usually strictly reporting on the president, but he is so very, very busy that there's so much to report on. And that's just how it is. So here we have a nomination sent to the Senate. This is for Christopher Vinzi of Massachusetts to be member of the board of directors of the United States International Development Finance Corporation. Okay. Here is a transcript from our lovely Kayleigh McEnany. And, just repeating, I just shared that I just shared that clip of her talking about this, and she also said that the 11 people were shot in 12 hours this past weekend in the Democrat-run New York City, and 61 people were shot in Democrat-run Chicago, 15 fatally killed. A Democrat state, a Democrat city. So I think, I have to tell you, folks, please comment. For everybody who's watching, in the live chat, please comment to me if you think people are actually making these connections and paying attention to this. Because I think there's people who think, oh, it's just, this group of crazy people. They have no idea. I think there's so many people that really don't know that these are Democrats, that this is a Democrat insurgency, that this is a hijacking of the Democrat Party. I'm just afraid that even though all these things are playing out, I'm afraid there's still people who are not putting the connection together. I'm really concerned about that. Yeah, here's a statement from the press secretary regarding today's Supreme Court ruling on the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. So you can come and read about this, but essentially, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, established by the Dodd-Frank Act, was instead designed based on a distrust of the American people's ability to participate in their government. The CFPB is exempt from the congressional appropriations process because CFPB's creators did not trust democratically elected representatives with funding the agency. Okay, so um, I should have started out at the very beginning, which is what I usually do, but today's decision represented an important victory for the fundamental principle that government officials should be held accountable to the American people. The Constitution vests the power of the executive branch solely in the president without any limitation on his ability to remove leaders of executive agencies. As Alexander Hamilton so eloquently argued in Federalist 70, unity in the executive branch is essential for providing the president with the authority needed for the effective administration of government and to make the president fully accountable to the electorate every 4 years for the management of the executive branch, which inherently includes the appointment and removal of government officials. Wait, let's repeat that. Which inherently includes the appointment and the removal of government officials. I wonder where this could come in handy in the near future. Okay, make a note of that, folks. So, accordingly, today's decision helps restore to Americans power over their government that the Dodd-Frank Act took away to protect entrenched and unelected bureaucrats in Washington. It respects and preserves the role of American voters in our constitutional system and should stand as an important precedent for ensuring that our republic remains a government of the people, by the people, for the people. Indeed. And then, of course, there was another ruling on from the Supreme Court on abortion. Like, we need another ruling to, on this topic. But in an unfortunate ruling today, this was June 29th, the Supreme Court devalued both the health of mothers and the lives of unborn children by gutting Louisiana's policy that required all abortion procedures be performed by individuals with admitting privileges at a nearby hospital. States have legitimate interest in regulating any medical procedure, including abortions, to protect patient safety. Instead of valuing fundamental democratic principles, unelected justices have intruded on the sovereign prerogatives of state governments by imposing their own policy preference in favor of abortion to override legitimate abortion safety regulations. Yeah. I'm kind of hesitating to ask for anyone's opinion on this, but by all means, you can put it in the live chat if you like, or even in the comment section of the video. I'm gonna state my opinion, and I know no one asked for it, but I am going to state it because I think unless you have a uterus, you don't really have an opinion. You don't get to have an opinion. I'm sorry. I have to take that opinion. I think this is a woman's decision, and it's a I just don't think that the government needs to be in our wombs. Sorry. Well, I'm not sorry. It's none of their business, right? I mean, can you imagine? Let's just think about this for a minute, folks. Can you imagine? Could you imagine? Okay, if we're, oh God, this is gonna get crazy tonight. Could you imagine, Shari? I know you're out there. Can you imagine, Slim, all the Ariel, Adam? Thank you so much for joining me, everybody. Deirdre, Ariel, Morgan, thanks for being here. Can you imagine if women had the right to dictate what men did with their genitals? Could you imagine that? Could you imagine their reproduction? Could you imagine? I'm almost giddy over this. Can you imagine what would happen? Could you imagine for a minute? Do you think that that's fair? Because that's the tool of impregnation, right? Meant to make laws against what men can do with their genitals, but you can make laws against ours. That's not right. Period. Okay? The your decision is at the moment that you unzip your pants. That's when you get to have your opinion, but not afterwards, because then the horse is out of the barn, isn't it? So, I mean, it's my opinion. I don't have penis envy. No, men can have an opinion, but you shouldn't be creating laws against abortion because you don't have a uterus. This is the whole point I'm trying to make. My whole point is, if you don't have a uterus, you don't get an opinion. That. It's not your body. It's not your organ in your body for the men. I'm sorry, but your opinion begins before the pregnancy begins. Okay, before you have the intercourse, not afterwards. You don't get an opinion afterwards because the decision was already made. Yeah. Okay, well, let's keep moving along. Now, I would never cut. Now, penis envy. That's pretty funny. Okay, so I'm gonna keep going. I just, I never did speak my opinion. I know that I've done reports with Jim Fetzer where Jim Fetzer stated his opinion. And, and I, for argument's sake, wanted to avoid an argument. So I just, decided to wait until it was my time to express my opinion. I just don't see how, oh, I already explained it. I just don't see how men can legislate a woman, anything about a woman's body. It's just, and I think that how ridiculous that is as ridiculous as women legislating men's reproduction. And that's, maybe that's what it has to come to in order to get men to realize it's not your place to have that decision, because it's not your body and it's not your experience to have to deal with. It might be on an emotional level, but having said that, I believe it's a woman's right to choose. So I'm not saying that I'm anti, or I'm, of course I'm pro-life if that is, the uh if it's for the health of the child, then I do believe in having, or the health of the mother. I absolutely believe in having your right to choose. So I don't know, folks. It's just for argument's sake, and I think it's a very good argument. I think it's a very valid one. You may disagree, and that's okay. We're going to continue. I'm sorry, we did get a little distracted, but the topic of abortion came up. So what are you going to do? It's how it is, right? Okay, so here we have West Wing reads. We have President Trump is reversing credential inflation in the federal workforce. On Friday, President Trump signed an executive order directing federal agencies to fill job vacancies based on merit rather than require a minimum level of education for candidates seeking open positions, according to Forbes. Credential inflation shuts out experienced, qualified job candidates who are perfectly capable of filling certain roles simply because they lack the right piece of paper. Most perniciously, it convinces young job seekers that they need a bachelor's degree or even a graduate degree to succeed, and it certainly does. Last year, U.S. Customs and Border Protection rescued 4,900 people for an agency that faces calls to defund Customs and Border Patrol and whose personnel are labeled murderers and white supremacists, the lack of attention to the rescue is a source of deep frustration, said Mark Morgan, acting head of the CBP, according to the Washington Times. It is incumbent upon elected leaders at every level to tackle the tension between law enforcement and the Black community head on by having an open, honest conversation about how we can move forward together. I've appreciated President Trump's willingness to do just that, according to the Black Press USA. 4 men have been charged in connection with damage to a statue of President Andrew Jackson during protests near the White House, the U.S. Justice Department said on Saturday, according to Reuters. These charges should serve as a warning to those who choose to desecrate the statues and monuments that adorn our nation's capital. So this is as we're kind of winding down here. Let me just check in with everybody in the live chat and see how we got. I'll tell you, folks, I know it got a little bit heated there, but I just, I'm going to show these comments. No, I'm not going to show that one. Yeah, I think a man's choice is, before he unzips his zipper, right? And that's his choice. So I don't know, folks. I just think that once it's done, it's a woman's decision, period. Okay, so, but that doesn't mean that you're not an influence in that decision. You certainly are an influence in the decision. There's no question about that. And you may get what you want, but if it's that you want the pregnancy terminated and your wife or your girlfriend doesn't, you may end up getting what you want anyway, because you may definitely persuade that decision. But it's a touchy topic, folks. It's a very, very touchy topic, obviously. So let's keep moving along. Okay. Again, a statement from the press secretary regarding this was for Tuesday, Supreme Court ruling on religious schools. We celebrate today's Supreme Court decision on religious schools, which removes one of the biggest obstacles to better educational opportunities for all children. States may no longer hide behind rules motivated by insidious bias against Catholics, known as Blaine Amendments, to exclude religious schools from public benefits. Laws that condition public benefits, like need-based academic scholarship on religious status, demonstrate state-sanctioned hostility to religion, pressure people and institutions to censor their religious views, and stigmatize disfavored religions. The Trump administration believes that school choice is a civil rights issue and that no parent should be forced to send their child to a failing school. President Trump will fight for school choice, and he will always defend our first freedom, the free exercise of religion. And here we have some more on criminal justice reform. If Democrats want criminal justice reform, they should work with Republicans. A year and a half ago, President Trump signed historic prison reform into law. Now, once again, he is looking to work across the aisle in bipartisan fashion to increase public safety for all communities, particularly Black Americans, White House advisor John Ron Smith writes in The Hill. But congressional Democrats are, sadly, playing politics with police reform. And if you want to read more, folks, go to the blog, thegoldfishreport.blogspot.com, and you can click on the link here and you can get more information on that. During the first 3 weeks of June, 75 people were shot in Atlanta. 11 have died. These are not police shootings. They're civilian shooting civilians. They don't carry the outrage and notoriety that a cop shooting someone will. But the victims are just as dead, according to the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. President Trump's recent action to suspend certain foreign guest worker visas will not hurt the U.S. economy, Matthew Transgesser writes. The influx of foreign labor, largely via the suspended visa programs, has stagnated and depressed wages for Americans for decades, according to the Daily Caller. Since April, the U.S. Small Business Administration has approved more than 4.7 million loans, totaling over $500 billion. SBA worked with 5,500 lenders, all sizes, including 4,000 community banks, 1,000 credit unions, 302 community development financial institutions, 170 minority depository institutions, and 54 farm credit institutions, according to the Orlando Sentinel. So there's lots going on policy, folks. A lot's going on. And then here we have another statement from the press secretary regarding the Supreme Court denial of appeal from 4 death row inmates. The Supreme Court today, this was June 29th, the Supreme Court today rightly rejected yet another attempt by 4 death row inmates to escape justice. These 4 men each stand convicted of horrendous acts of violence, including the brutal rape and murder of children. Each criminal was first convicted and sentenced for their offenses more than 15 years ago. Thanks to the leadership of Attorney General Barr, their families and communities of the victims will finally receive some long overdue justice. And before I get on to finishing up this report, I just want to check in. Oh God, I hope you guys aren't arguing. I hope you guys aren't arguing too much in the live chat tonight. Okay, let's move along. We also have a lot more news there's more news coming out of the White House, but I'm going to save that for Saturday's report, okay? So there's more stuff that came out today, but I'll save it for Saturday. Let's talk about this, which is really important. This is readout from the First Lady's Roundtable on Foster Care and Strengthening America's Child Welfare System. This was yesterday, folks. Yesterday, First Lady Melania Trump held a virtual roundtable to discuss the foster care system in the United States and the administration's ongoing efforts to support safe, stable, and permanent families for children and youth. Those efforts include the June 24th, 2020 Executive Order on Strengthening the Child Welfare System for America's Children, which President Trump signed last week with the First Lady in attendance. The First Lady invited participants who are advocates for foster children and who have been impacted by the foster care system, including young adults who have spent time in foster care, foster parents, and representatives from foster care and adoption organizations. Secretary of Health and Human Services Alex Azar, Assistant Secretary Lynn Johnson of the Administration for Children and Families, Kellyanne Conway, Counselor to the President, and Emma Doyle, Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy to the First Lady, also participated in the roundtable. First Lady Melania Trump opened the event by highlighting that the first pillar of her Be Best initiative is well-being, including social, emotional, and physical health. Mrs. Trump emphasized the need to increase partnerships, resources, and transparency in the foster care system, particularly given the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on America's foster children and families. Following introductions, First Lady moderated a discussion with the roundtable participants. Ohio Governor Mike DeWine and First Lady Fran DeWine, Governor Chris Sununu of New Hampshire, and First Lady Donna Edwards of Louisiana, and State Senator Doug Mastriano of Pennsylvania spoke about their ongoing work on primary prevention and permanent placement. Foster care advocates shared their personal experiences with the system and discussed lessons from the pandemic, innovations in the child placement system, the importance of trauma-informed training, and the intrinsic lifelong need for each person to have the support of a loving family, both in childhood and beyond. The First Lady concluded the roundtable by thanking everyone for their advocacy and praising the strength and resilience of several of the participants, noting that children in America are safer today because of their efforts. Mrs. Trump emphasized her commitment to this vital issue and encouraged those in attendance to continue to work with the administration to ensure all children are able to thrive. And so that's the latest with the White House. I just want to check in with everybody and see how you're all doing. Has everybody calmed down? Shari, did you jump out? I haven't seen you in the chat for a while, Shari. I think I lost you. Yeah. Well, I hope you come back if you're, still there. There are some other bits of information in the news. I might just, I'm not going to screen share this in particular, but I will discuss it. Okay. And then, maybe I will screen share it in a minute. This is about women's suffrage, and I'm going to post it while we're speaking. I had a busy day, so I didn't get all the news releases posted, but I'm going to screen share this for us right now. This is about women's suffrage, and this is, I'll screen share it. Where'd we go? Okay. 100 years. This is as of today, Wednesday, July 1st. So is the last press release that I just read. 100 years of women's suffrage. Well, since we're on the subject of women's suffrage tonight, talking about abortion, you might as well, this is very appropriate, yeah? On August 18th, 1920, the 19th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution was ratified. 8 days later, it was officially adopted, securing the right to vote for American women. To honor the 100th anniversary of this historic event, First Lady Melania Trump announced an exhibit titled Building the Movement. America's Youth Celebrate 100 Years of Women's Suffrage. The exhibit will feature artwork submitted by young Americans alongside images of women's suffrage parades, marches, and civic gatherings. It's important to include our children in the conversation so they can learn and understand the history behind the women's suffrage movement, First Lady Melania Trump said. It is my hope that this project will both support and expand the important conversations taking place on equality and the impact of peaceful protests, while encouraging children to engage in the history behind the consequential movement in their own home state. If you want to learn more about the First Lady's exhibit, you can go to the goldfishreport.blogspot.com, and under July 1st, you can find this story and you can click on this link and you can find out more about it. President Trump is making sure states have what they need to fight coronavirus. So this is the latest, folks. This is the latest update. Vice President Mike Pence led a virtual meeting yesterday between the White House Coronavirus Task Force and governors across America. We are continuing to work with all of our governors as some states see an increase in cases, Vice President Pence tweeted. We assured the governors today that their states will have what they need when they need it. In Dallas on Sunday, the vice president delivered a simple message. We're all in this together, and Governor Abbott, I'm a phone call away. Apparently, he might not be asking for resources, but we'll see. President Trump's coronavirus guidelines, first unveiled in March, helped slow the spread of the disease while America launched the largest mobilization of industry since World War II. Now armed with the strongest testing system of any nation on earth, U.S. governors are well prepared to continue managing local outbreaks of the virus as needed. What the American people should know, Vice President Pence said in an interview, is that because of the leadership that President Trump has provided and because of the extraordinary innovation that we have brought to this task, we are in a much better place to respond to these outbreaks when they were than we were 4 months ago. So let's just see. Let me see what this clip is here. I am screen sharing. So I'm going to screen share this clip here. Oh, it's taking forever to load. Maybe I won't be screen sharing it. Maybe someone doesn't want this loading. Look, none of them are loading. Interesting. Well, we'll come back to that. Maybe it will end up loading. Who knows? Yeah, see that. Okay, so let's go back. And we also have a photo of the day about this meeting that they held with Tony the Rat Fauci. I don't know. Wear a mask, don't wear a mask. Wear a mask, don't wear a mask. This is getting crazy. The president said today, he said that, he was okay with people wearing masks, but he wasn't sure that it was, something that they had to implement a law for. Because it's the droplets that actually contain the virus. So it's like, whatever's spread in the droplets. So you have to have somebody coughing and sneezing around you. But, honestly, folks, Isn't that our body, our choice? Yeah. I don't know. Again, we have a little bit too much government getting involved here. I think, as we have seen, um, we have seen so many different opinions. We saw Dr. Judy Mikovits come out and talk about, um, the facts behind this coronavirus, and Fauci himself. So, we have a distrust in what they're telling us. Actually, it's very hard for us to trust what they're saying, quite honestly. So let me go back to some more press releases from today. hmm There's also a proclamation here for America's workers, so I'm going to get that posted as well, so we can take a look at that. Just hang on, bear with me for just 1 second. Maybe I have a feeling it's going to be a busy end of the week, so it's probably just as well I include this in the report today anyway. So here we go. Okay. Here's a proclamation today that we're going to talk about. This is by the president, a pledge to Americans Workers Month. So the ongoing effects of the coronavirus pandemic on our nation's economy and workforce have been unprecedented. Businesses of all sizes have been forced to close, downsize, or restructure. Countless employees have transitioned to working remotely, and tens of millions of Americans have found themselves newly unemployed. Despite the hardship caused by the pandemic, it has not encumbered the American spirit or the unyielding resolve of our nation's workers. The United States economy added 2.5 million jobs in May, rebounding with the historic strength and beginning the transition back to strong economic growth. So the president's just establishing this as the Pledge to American Workers Month. And let's see if there was anything else of note that, yeah, another West Wing reads. All right, I'm just gonna screen share it from my email. I guess I'll do it that way. So I have to get some other things posted. So USMCA replacing NAFTA today is the model for all future trade agreements. And we talked about this in the very beginning of the report. At midnight today, the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, USMCA, went into effect, replacing the outdated NAFTA, the failed NAFTA. President Donald Trump was elected in part on his promise to change the direction of U.S. trade policy so it would put America first. He has kept that promise with new trade agreements and tough enforcement actions that break down foreign trade barriers, protect America's competitive edge, and stop the outsourcing of U.S. jobs. Sorry, we're having some fireworks going on outside. It's a little distracting. Busy decriminalizing everything from shoplifting to drug use, San Francisco's lawmakers don't seem to realize that the city may soon be left gutted of its residents and its most successful industries. Better policies and leadership could have prevented this situation. Instead, San Francisco ignored its everyday citizens who want safe streets and took its cues from a wealthy, hyper-progressive, itinerant class. And also, large firms are joining a campaign to turn social media platforms into tools of political surveillance and enforcement against conservatives. Coca-Cola, Starbucks, Verizon, North Face, Eddie Bauer, and other major brands have paused Facebook advertising after left-wing activist groups claimed it does not censor enough political speech. And finally, Health Secretary Alex Azar said yesterday that personal responsibility will help America have a safe reopening of our workers. We can continue to reopen, to get back to work, get back to school, get back to healthcare, but we have to act responsibly as individuals. Yeah, well, there's a responsibility in reporting truthful coronavirus numbers as well. I mean, it seems like we have to always be the ones being, responsible for everything. Yet they can, the hospitals can lie about who dies from coronavirus. And as Judy Mikovits says, you die from a virus, not with a virus. You don't count the virus. I mean, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy, right? Okay, we have a statement from the president, which I'm going to screen share. This is a statement. let's see, what does he have here? When I ran for president, I made a solemn promise to the American people that I would end the job-killing failure called the NAFTA and replace it with a better deal for our workers, farmers, ranchers, and businesses, the men and women of Main Street who built the most prosperous and equitable economy in human history. Today, with NAFTA ending forever and the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, USMCA, entering into full force, our grateful nation pays tribute to America's workers and celebrates their ability to overcome decades of bad deals and failed policies. The USMCA is the largest, fairest, and most balanced trade agreement ever negotiated and contains innovative provisions to help grow the economy and support American jobs. It is a tremendous victory for our manufacturers and auto workers, meaning more cars and trucks will be produced in the United States. The USMCA is also a historic breakthrough for American agriculture. Canada will provide greater access for American dairy products, poultry and eggs, and finally give fair treatment to American-grown wheat. In addition, the USMCA includes groundbreaking provisions to address digital trade services, small businesses, and more, which will protect America's competitive edge in technology and innovation. The strong and overwhelming support the USMCA received from both parties in Congress, as well as from labor unions, business organizations, and champions of agriculture, shows just how much this trade agreement will benefit all Americans. Hundreds of thousands of jobs will be added to the economy. The United States appreciates the efforts of our partners in Mexico and Canada to ensure that North America is strengthening its economic ties while working to combat the coronavirus pandemic. To mark this historic achievement, I look forward to welcoming President Andrés Manuel López Obrador of Mexico to the White House on July 8th to continue our important dialogue on trade, health, and other issues central to our region and prosperity. To our regional prosperity and security. Sorry, I didn't mean to eliminate that. And let's just see, we have also the president, we have a statement by the press secretary that will also be up on the blog later, but it's just reiterating what the president just said, so I'm not going to report that right now. And here we have, we have another 1600 daily that I'm going to post this so we can talk about it. I mean, you know, people who are watching POTUS reports are people who really want to know what the president's been doing. Is he working? What's he doing all week, right? Because you can't really get the truth from the mainstream media. That's the problem. The mainstream media is going to make it sound like the president's doing nothing and that he's just causing problems and helping friends. And this is really the only place you can get the truth about what the president's actually doing. So I'm going to screen share. This post I just posted on the blog. NAFTA is no more. So this is more about NAFTA, of course. For over 25 years, Republicans and Democrats alike griped about the North American Free Trade Agreement because of its weak voluntary labor and environmental rules. NAFTA cost America millions of jobs and devastated working-class communities. President Trump was one of NAFTA's earliest critics as far back as the 1990s. Like former President Obama, candidate Trump promised to renegotiate NAFTA if he was elected. Unlike President Obama, Donald Trump kept that promise after taking office. As of today, NAFTA is gone. This is July 1st. So as of today, NAFTA is gone. Hear that, everybody? That's good news. Replaced by the far stronger USMCA. And then here's a clip that I'm going to screen share. Hopefully it will load and we can get everybody to view this. Okay, sorry about that. Here we go.
Today we're finally ending the NAFTA nightmare and signing into law the brand new U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement. After NAFTA's adoption more than 25 years ago, the United States lost nearly 1/4 of all of its manufacturing jobs. 2 decades of politicians ran for office vowing to replace NAFTA. Yet once elected, they never even tried. But I'm not like those other politicians. I keep my promises and I'm fighting for the American worker. This is a colossal victory for our farmers, ranchers, energy workers, factory workers, and American workers. For the first time in American history, we have replaced a disastrous trade deal that rewarded outsourcing with a truly fair and reciprocal trade deal that will keep jobs, wealth, and growth right here in America.
So there you
Today,
have it.
we're finally ending the NAFTA.
There you have it. So there's a lot going on. There's much more going on than just this alone. You know, you can definitely go to the goldfishreport.blogspot.com and you can check it out yourself. I think there's going to be, hold on a second. Okay. And there's going to be more information to talk about. Let me just go back here and yeah, let's see what else the president has talking about here, and then we're going to wrap this up for tonight. Okay, the USMCA is a complete overhaul of North America trade with modern, rebalanced rules for businesses and investment. The International Trade Commission predicts that the USMCA will create up to 589,000 new jobs and have the most positive impact on U.S. jobs and wages of any trade agreement that the Commission has ever reviewed. The new agreement is also a major bipartisan victory, incorporating ideas from both Democrats and Republicans to get the best deal possible for American workers. The strong and overwhelming support the USMCA received from both parties in Congress, as well as from labor unions, business organizations, and champions of agriculture, show just how much this trade agreement will benefit all Americans, President Trump said in a statement today. Secretary Perdue says the USMCA changes things by leveling the playing field. Starting today, the USMCA will begin addressing long-standing trade imbalances across American industries. For example, in the automotive sector alone, 75% of qualifying vehicles must now be genuinely produced in North America, reducing the motive to outsource parts to low-cost countries. 10 to 45% of a vehicle must be built by workers making an average of at least $16 an hour, preserving more jobs for American workers. And $34 billion in new automotive manufacturing investments are expected in the United States over the next 5 years. That's just one industry. USMCA is leveling the playing field for American farmers, ranchers, manufacturers, and businesses all across our economy too. The United States has the best labor force of any country on earth. Our workers don't ask for much, only the opportunity to compete fairly for good jobs at honest wages. With NAFTA in the rearview mirror, a new era in American trade begins today. I keep my promises, President Trump says. And so this is a big win for American agriculture and other industries as well. And here is the president signing the United States-Mexico trade agreement. This was January 29th of 2020. So NAFTA is dead, folks. It's dead. Deader than a doornail. And it's good because it was a bad deal. It outsourced our manufacturing, and that meant it outsourced jobs. And so that was a terrible thing for the United States. Really unbelievable. So today, Kayleigh McEnany at a press briefing said that she's pleased to inform everyone that Seattle has been liberated. The Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, otherwise known as Chaz, I think they changed their name to CHOP, but told they went back to Chaz, was a failed 4-week Democrat experiment by the radical left. And the results are in. Anarchy is anti-American. Law and order is essential. Peace in our streets will be secured. So there's a whole transcript here from Kayleigh today. If you want to read the transcript from the press briefing, you can come here to the goldfishreport.blogspot.com and check it out. It's not actually posted at this moment, but it'll be posted in a few moments. And I did see video of that. I'm just wondering if anybody else saw the video of all of that being replaced. I saw, let's see if I can find some. Yeah, I agree with you, Slim. Most stuff that you buy from China is not very good quality anyway. Usually falls apart. It's pretty cheap. But, you know, we let them in, folks. We let them in. Yeah, exactly. It wasn't a good deal. It wasn't a good deal for America, I have to say. Let me just see on our Goldfish Report Twitter page, we have, yeah, I might as well screen share a couple of things from our Twitter because there's lots of good things there as well you can look for. Here is Representative Jim Jordan talking about mob rule or law and order. Let's hear what he has to say.
Canceled if the mob doesn't like who you're related to. Shannon, I think the last 6 weeks have changed everything. We are now 4 weeks before a critical election, and I think this election now is about one overriding, simple, fundamental question. Who can save America? Is it going to be Joe Biden or Donald Trump? I mean, think about it. The cancel culture mob says that if you stand for the pledge now, you stand for the anthem, somehow you're terrible. The cancel culture mob says if you take your boys fishing and they don't like the shirt you're wearing, that you can be canceled. I mean, this is, where does this end? The cancel culture left says, oh, we're going to defund the police. No, we're going to go further. We're going to abolish the police as the Minneapolis City Council did. Where does this end? And the fundamental question, I think, now for the American people is, who do you think can stand up to the mob? Joe Biden or President Trump? That is really what this election now, in my mind, all boils down to. No, you can now get canceled.
So there you have it. You know, Jim Jordan, you know, he's definitely like a lone warrior over there in the Democratic House. And, you know, thank God he's there because he's clearly a voice of reason for the Democrats. And I just hope they listen to him. This was also amazing. Finally, our patriots are starting to stand up and take back. Oh, wait a second. Sorry, I wasn't screen sharing. I realized that. Here we go. We'll try it again.
Not here. They doing it here. Go back up the fucking art museum. Not here. Not here. This ain't Seattle, motherfucker.
Watch the language. Basically, these are guys who are, you know, uniting against Antifa and Black Lives Matter. So, you know, finally we see some people kind of getting the courage to get out there and stand up to these people and say, no, you don't represent us and our values. And yeah, here you have Lionel from Lionel Media saying, when do you think Americans lost their backbone and balls? Exactly. When exactly? And, you know, he's absolutely right. He's absolutely right. Finally, they grew a pair and they're all standing there defending, you know, our police and our way of life. So that's really great. So there's other stories here. Most of these we already spoke about and reported on. I was just looking for this one video that I thought was very good and very illustrated quite well. Oh, this is sad. This is so sad in New York, seeing this woman be mugged like this. This is terrible. This is why we need to have concealed carry, folks. We really need to have concealed carry. It's our, you know, it should be our right to defend ourselves no matter where we are, not just in our home. So, yeah, there's things here about about Fauci and. Okay, so you can come to the blog here. You can check it out. I mean, you can come to the Twitter page, and you got to love this couple here. You know, lawyers who know the law and can carry. There you go. This couple in St. Louis were defending their property from rioters. They broke into and onto their property, and so there they go, taking out their guns, and they have the right to do it. They have the right to do it. We all do. Don't ever forget that, folks. If, you know, there's a reason why we have a Second Amendment, and, you know, if you're capable, you know, it's a good idea to have it. So that's it for tonight, folks. We're going to be back on Saturday night with the rest of the not political theater, the rest of our our POTUS report for week number 178. 178 weeks, folks. We haven't missed a week. Been here holding the president's feet to the fire, making sure he's draining the swamp. And he is. He's draining the swamp. I like to know what he's going to do for the next 4 years, though. I want to know what his plan is. So that's wonderful. So thank you, everybody, for joining me. Hi, Wanda. Nice to see you. Morgan, Slim, thanks for being with me. And Adam, as always, Ariel, Kat, thank you very much for joining me tonight. I hope everybody has a great happy July, by the way. Happy July 4th. We will be back on the 4th, actually. Yeah. We will be back on the 4th. Thanks, Morgan. Yeah, we sure had a good rant tonight, didn't we? I don't know. I don't know. It's just like common. Isn't that not fair? Is it not fair? You know, if a man has a right to tell a woman what to do with her body, then we should have a right to tell a man what to do with his body when it comes to reproduction, right? Just saying. Just trying to be fair. Just trying to be fair. I have a Libra rising. Trust me, I want to be fair, but it does need to be fair. So thank you all very much for joining me. I appreciate you being here. Remember, we're going to be doing we'll be back tomorrow morning doing a Food for the Soul report with Dr. Scott Werner, and I'm very excited about that. Now, no more no more penis talk. No worry about that. But you know, we just have to have we have to have the discussion. You know, we have to be able to talk about this in frank terms because you know, it's an important topic. It truly is. And you know, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying when you see how quick, you know, people change their minds about things when, you know, they're the ones who are going to, if women start legislating, passing laws about men's reproduction behavior, then how quick this topic would drop and just disappear, wouldn't it? All right, folks. And, you know, I'm not hating men or anything. I just think there's there's a reason why this has become an issue, a political issue, and it has no business being a political issue, really. But it became a court issue, and so that's why it became a political issue. So everybody have a great weekend. Enjoy. Have a happy and a safe 4th of July. We will be back on Saturday on the 4th. I don't know who's doing fireworks. I have no idea. And this social distancing stuff, everything's just kind of so, you know, crazy. I have no idea who's doing it. But if you go and watch fireworks, please be careful and have a great time. And I just want to warn everybody, be very careful because I wouldn't be surprised if there were planned protests to exploit the fireworks and incite some kind of chaos and use that as a cover for, you know, rampages and things like that. And I'm not trying to be, you know, scare anybody. I'm just trying to say I actually did hear some reports about that. And I think everybody needs to be super careful about where you're going. So thank you so much. If you want to, and of course, and on Friday we're going to have a dragon interview regarding the financial system and geopolitics, and with Benjamin Fulford and the Red Dragon Ambassador. And if you want to see that on Friday, you can become a Patreon at our site there on our website. You could find that link, and the link is also below in the description section. However, it will be made available to the public on the weekend. So if you'd like to get our reports and our exclusive interviews in advance, you can become a Patreon. And even if you don't want to have them in advance, you can still become a Patreon and help support this channel and keep it going. So thank you, everybody, you have a great night. Thanks for being with me. And this concludes this edition of the GoldFish Report.